The envelope was cream-colored, heavy, embossed with gold letters that spelled out a name I had spent 2 years trying to forget. Julian Sterling Victoria Ashford. Request the pleasure of your company at their engagement celebration. My hands trembled as I held the invitation. Not because I still loved him, I didn't. Not because I was bitter, I had done my best to move on. But because Julian Sterling had been my first everything. My first kiss, my first bond, my first heartbreak. And he had discarded me like something broken, something worthless, something not good enough for his family's precious reputation. 2 years ago, Julian had sat me down in the cafe where we had our first date and told me, with practiced detachment, that our relationship was not aligned with his future plans. His father, the head of the Sterling Empire, had arranged a match with the Ashford Pack, a powerful Omega family that would elevate the Sterling name. Julian had agreed, and I had been erased. I was a low-ranking Omega from a disgraced family. My grandfather, the only family I had left, had lost everything when my parents died. We lived in a small apartment on the edge of the city, and I worked double shifts at a bookstore to keep us afloat. Julian had been my escape, my dream of something better. And then he had woken up one day and decided I was no longer worth the effort. I should have thrown the invitation away. I should have burned it, ignored it, pretended it never arrived. But a part of me, the part that still remembered the boy who had once looked at me like I was the center of the universe, wanted to see him one last time. Wanted to prove that I was fine, that I had survived. Maybe I was just a glutton for punishment. The party was held at the Sterling Estate, a sprawling mansion nestled in the hills overlooking the city. I arrived alone, dressed in the only suit that still fit me. Charcoal gray, slightly worn at the cuffs, but clean. The valet gave me a look that suggested I didn't belong, and he wasn't wrong. I didn't belong, but I had come anyway. The ballroom was a sea of silk and diamonds, champagne and laughter. Couples danced under crystal chandeliers, their jewel-toned gowns shimmering in the golden light. I spotted Julian immediately. He stood near the fireplace, his hand resting on the arm of a stunning Omega woman with raven hair and emerald eyes. Victoria Ashford was beautiful, elegant, everything an Omega should be. Everything I was not. Julian laughed at something she said, and the sound cut through me like glass. He looked happy, genuinely happy, and I hated that I still cared. I took a glass of champagne from a passing tray and retreated to the edge of the room, positioning myself behind a marble column where I could watch without being seen. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to explain who I was or why I was there. I just wanted to see, to confirm, to finally close the door on this chapter of my life. But the universe, as always, had other plans. The first thing I noticed was the scent. It cut through the perfume and cologne, through the champagne and the flowers, through everything. Cedarwood and smoke, rich and dark, with an undercurrent of something dangerous, something alpha. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, and it made my Omega instincts sit up and pay attention in a way they hadn't in years. I turned. A man stood at the top of the grand staircase, surveying the room with the casual authority of someone who owned everything his gaze touched. He was tall, taller than Julian, with broad shoulders and dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. His eyes were the color of winter storms, cold and assessing, and when they landed on me, something flickered in their depths. Recognition, interest, hunger. Damien Sterling, Julian's older brother, the heir to the Sterling Empire, the man who had been conspicuously absent from every family dinner I had attended, always traveling, always working, always too busy for the trivialities of social events. He was nothing like Julian. Where Julian was polished and charming, Damien was raw and intense. Where Julian smiled easily, Damien's expression was a mask of controlled danger. And where Julian had treated me like a secret worth keeping, Damien looked at me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. I looked away first, my heart pounding. This was not why I had come. I had not come to catch the attention of the most powerful alpha in the room. I had come to say goodbye to my past, not invite chaos into my future. But Damien Sterling was already descending the stairs, his long strides eating up the distance between us. Guests parted for him instinctively, their conversations faltering as he passed. He moved like a predator, and I was suddenly very aware that I was standing in a corner with nowhere to run. "Elliot Hayes," he said, stopping in front of me. His voice was deep, resonant, and it sent a shiver down my spine. "Julian's lost Omega." The words were not cruel, but they landed like a blow. "I'm not anyone's anything," I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Damien's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "No," he agreed. "You're not. So why are you here?" I should have lied. Should have made an excuse, turned away, disappeared back into the crowd. But I was tired of lying, tired of pretending, tired of being the one who always had to be gracious and forgiving and small. "I came to see if he was happy," I said quietly. "And he is. So I'm leaving." I turned to go, but Damien's hand closed around my wrist, not hard, but firm enough to stop me. "Not yet." I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. "Excuse me. Julian doesn't deserve your attention. He never did." Damien released my wrist, but his gaze held me in place. "Stay? Dance with me. Let him see that you've moved on to something better." "Something better?" I laughed, and it came out bitter. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Damien extended his hand, palm up. "One dance. Then you can leave, and I won't stop you." I stared at his hand. This was a terrible idea. Julian would see. Victoria would see. Everyone would see. And yet, some part of me, the part that was tired of being invisible, wanted to say yes. "One dance," I said, placing my hand in his. Damien's fingers closed around mine, warm and solid. "One dance." The music shifted as we stepped onto the floor, a slow waltz that seemed to wrap around us like velvet. Damien led with a confidence that made my stomach flip, his hand settling on my waist, his thumb tracing small circles against the fabric of my suit. He was close, closer than he needed to be, and his scent surrounded me, drowning out everything else. "You're trembling," he murmured against my ear. "Your brother humiliated me," I whispered back. "Forgive me if I'm not completely at ease." Damien's jaw tightened. "Julian is a fool. He always has been. Then why are you here? Why aren't you celebrating with him?" Damien pulled back just enough to look at me, his gray eyes dark and unreadable. "Because I'm not here for him. I'm here for you." My breath caught. "What?" "I've been watching you, Elliot. From the moment you arrived. I saw the way you looked at him, like you were saying goodbye to something you'd already buried. And I thought, that Omega deserves better." He spun me gently, then pulled me back against him. "So here I am, giving you better." I didn't know what to say, didn't know what to feel. This was insane. I had come to close a door, not open a window. But Damien Sterling was looking at me like I was the only person in the room, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt seen. The music ended too soon. Damien released me slowly, his hand lingering on my waist. "Thank you for the dance." I nodded, unable to speak. "One more thing," he said, leaning close. "When you're ready to stop surviving and start living, come find me. I'll be waiting." Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd like a ghost. I stood there, frozen, my heart racing, my mind spinning. What had just happened? I had come to watch my ex-boyfriend celebrate his engagement, and instead, I had been swept off my feet by his older brother, a man who, by all accounts, should have been a stranger. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. I slipped out of the ballroom through a side door, into a quiet garden lit by fairy lights. The night air was cool against my flushed skin, and I leaned against a stone wall, trying to slow my breathing. The garden was beautiful, roses in full bloom, a fountain bubbling softly in the center, and the faint sound of music drifting from inside. I closed my eyes and tried to calm my racing thoughts. I didn't hear him approach. I didn't know he was there until his hands closed around my waist, pulling me back against a solid chest. His scent enveloped me, cedarwood and smoke, dark and intoxicating. My Omega instinct screamed at me to submit, to surrender, but I forced myself to stay still. "You followed me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Damien's lips brushed against my ear. "I told you, I'm not letting you go that easily." I turned in his arms, facing him. His eyes were dark, intense, and they held a hunger that made my knees weak. "What do you want from me?" "Everything," he said simply. "I want everything." Before I could respond, he kissed me. It was not a gentle kiss. It was desperate and demanding, full of longing and possession. His hands tangled in my hair, tilting my head back as his tongue swept into my mouth. I gasped against his lips, and he swallowed the sound, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I should have pushed him away, should have run, should have remembered that this was the brother of the man who had broken me. But Damien's scent was everywhere, drowning out reason, and my body was responding in ways I couldn't control. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine, his eyes closed. "Mark me," I whispered, the words escaping before I could stop them. Damien's eyes snapped open. "What? Mark me. Claim me. Make me yours." I didn't know where the words were coming from, but they felt right. "I'm tired of being invisible. I'm tired of being the one who gets left behind. If you want me, take me." Damien stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he smiled. "You have no idea what you're asking. Then show me." He tilted my head to the side, exposing the curve of my neck where my scent gland pulsed beneath the skin. His lips brushed against it, soft at first, then harder. I felt his teeth graze the sensitive flesh, and I shuddered. "This is forever," he murmured against my skin. "Once I do this, there's no going back. You'll be mine, in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the pack, in the eyes of the world." "Yes," I breathed. His teeth sank into my neck. The pain was sharp, immediate, but it was followed by a rush of heat that spread through my entire body. I cried out, my fingers digging into his shoulders, as the bond snapped into place between us. It was like lightning, like fire, like coming home after being lost for years. I felt him, his strength, his power, his hunger, and I knew that he felt me too. When he pulled back, the mark was already healing, a silver crescent on my neck that would never fade. Damien cupped my face in his hands, his eyes bright with something that looked like wonder. "Mine," he said. "Yours," I agreed. We stood there in the garden, wrapped in each other, as the music played on inside and the stars emerged overhead. I had come to say goodbye to my past, but instead, I had found my future. And for the first time in 2 years, I was not afraid. The news spread quickly. By the time Damien and I walked back into the ballroom, hand in hand, everyone had heard. Whispers followed us like a trail of smoke. The Omega Julian rejected, marked by his brother. Damien Sterling has claimed him. Julian saw us first. His face went pale, then red, then white again. Victoria's emerald eyes widened with shock, and for a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. "What have you done?" Julian demanded, his voice shaking. Damien pulled me closer, his arm around my waist, his mark visible on my neck. "I've claimed my mate," he said calmly. "Something you should have done when you had the chance. You can't. This is," Julian sputtered, gesturing wildly at Victoria. "Your engagement means nothing to me," Damien said. "You made your choice. Now I've made mine." Victoria recovered first. She lifted her chin, her expression hardening. "This is humiliating." "No," Damien said. "This is justice." Julian threw away someone precious because he was too weak to stand up to our father. I won't make the same mistake. The room erupted in chaos. Guests whispered, phones were raised, and somewhere in the back, I heard laughter. Nervous, scandalized laughter. Julian looked like he wanted to murder someone. Victoria looked like she wanted to disappear. But Damien just took my hand and led me out of the ballroom, ignoring the chaos behind us. We walked through the mansion, past the grand staircase, past the family portraits lining the walls, until we reached a private wing at the far end of the estate. Damien opened a door and ushered me inside. The room was a study, dark wood, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting warm shadows across the walls. Damien closed the door behind us and leaned against it, his eyes fixed on me. "You're shaking," he said. "I know. Are you afraid?" I thought about it. No, just overwhelmed. Damien crossed the room and pulled me into his arms. "I should have done this years ago. Should have claimed you before Julian ever had the chance. You didn't know me then. I knew of you. I saw you at family dinners, quiet and polite, always trying to make yourself smaller so no one would notice you. I saw the way Julian looked at you, like you were an obligation, not a gift. And I wanted to take you away from him, but you weren't mine to take. And now you're mine." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "And I'm never letting you go." The next morning, the headlines were brutal. Sterling Heir claims brothers rejected Omega. Engagement in shambles as Damien, Sterling Mark's mystery mate. Family feud erupts at Sterling Estate. I sat in Damien's penthouse, scrolling through the articles on my phone, my stomach in knots. Grandfather had called 3 times, his voice a mixture of shock and concern. I hadn't known how to explain what had happened, so I told him I was safe and that I would visit soon. Damien emerged from the bedroom, dressed in a charcoal suit, his dark hair still damp from the shower. He looked at me, at my phone, and his expression softened. "Stop reading those," he said, taking the phone from my hands and setting it aside. "Everyone hates me. Everyone is jealous." He sat beside me on the couch, pulling me close. "You've done nothing wrong. I went to my ex's engagement party and let his brother mark me in the garden. That's not nothing." Damien's lips twitched. "You didn't let me do anything. I took what I wanted. The blame is mine." I turned to face him. "Why did you do it? Really?" He was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes searching mine. "Because I've been watching you for 3 years, Elliot. 3 years of seeing you sad, lonely, trying to survive. 3 years of wanting to reach out, but holding back because you were with Julian. And when I saw you at that party, so brave, so broken, still trying to pretend you were fine, I couldn't wait anymore. You could have just talked to me. Would you have listened?" I thought about it. Probably not. I had been so focused on Julian, on the past, on the pain. I wouldn't have trusted another Sterling. "No," I admitted. Then I did what I had to do. He cupped my face in his hands. "I know this isn't how you imagined your life. I know I'm not the alpha you dreamed of, but I will spend every day proving that I deserve you." I leaned into his touch. "You don't have to prove anything." "Yes, I do." He kissed me, soft and slow. "You've been hurt enough. I won't let anyone hurt you again. Not even me." Julian came to the penthouse 2 days later. I was in the kitchen, making tea, when the door burst open and he stormed in, his face flushed with anger. Damien stood from the couch, his posture tense, but he didn't move to stop his brother. "You've ruined everything." Julian spat, his eyes fixed on me. "I didn't ruin anything," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You did that yourself when you chose status over love. You think this is love?" Julian laughed, bitter and sharp. "Damien doesn't love you. He's using you to get back at me, to prove that he's better. That's all this is." "Julian." Damien's voice was low, dangerous. "Leave. Not until I say what I came to say." Julian turned back to me. "He'll discard you, just like I did. The Sterlings don't keep what doesn't serve them. You're a temporary distraction, nothing more." The words stung, but I refused to let him see it. Maybe, but at least he was honest about what he wanted. You pretended to love me while planning your escape. That's worse. Julian's face twisted. You're pathetic. Enough. Damien moved between us, his body blocking Julian's view of me. You've said your piece. Now leave, before I make you leave. Julian glared at him, then at me, then turned and stalked out of the penthouse, slamming the door behind him. The silence that followed was heavy. I set down the kettle and wrapped my arms around myself, trying to stop the trembling. Damien turned to me, his expression soft. Elliot, he's not wrong. I whispered. You could discard me. The Sterlings don't keep what doesn't serve them. I'm not the Sterlings. He crossed the room and pulled me into his arms. I'm not my father. I'm not my brother. I'm just a man who finally found someone worth holding on to. I buried my face in his chest and let myself cry. Not from sadness, from relief. Because for the first time in years, I believed that someone might actually stay. The weeks that followed were a blur of adjustment. I moved into Damien's penthouse, a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He gave me my own room, my own space, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. The mark on my neck had healed into a pale silver scar, a constant reminder of the bond between us. We fell into a routine. Mornings, we had coffee together on the balcony, watching the city wake up. Afternoons, I worked remotely for the bookstore, and Damien attended meetings or took calls. Evenings, we cooked dinner together. Or rather, I cooked, and Damien tried not to burn anything. He was surprisingly gentle. For a man who commanded boardrooms and inspired fear in his enemies, he was patient and kind with me. He asked before touching. He gave me space when I needed it. He never once made me feel like I owed him something. You're staring, he said one evening, catching me watching him from across the couch. I'm admiring. Same thing. No, staring is passive. Admiring is active. There's intention behind it. He smiled, a rare, genuine smile that made my heart skip. You're impossible. And yet you claimed me. And yet I claimed you. He pulled me onto his lap, wrapping his arms around my waist. Best decision I ever made. I leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Do you ever regret it? Never. He pressed a kiss to my hair. Do you? No. And I meant it. 3 months into our bond, a new threat emerged. Julian, bitter and humiliated, had been spreading rumors about me, that I was a gold digger, that I had seduced Damien, that I was only after the sterling fortune. The whispers grew louder, reaching the ears of Damien's business partners and the pack elders. They want you to denounce the bond. Marcus, Damien's assistant, reported during a tense meeting in the penthouse. They claim that Elliot has manipulated you, that the mark was coerced. Damien's expression was ice. And what do you think? I think they're afraid of losing control. You've always been unpredictable, but this, claiming an Omega without the family's approval, it threatens their influence. Let them threaten. Damien stood, pacing the room. I won't denounce him. I won't apologize. Elliot is mine, and anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Marcus nodded, his expression resigned. I'll handle the damage control. After he left, I turned to Damien. Maybe you should. No. He stopped in front of me, cupping my face in his hands. Don't. I chose you. I will always choose you. Nothing they say will change that. Tears pricked my eyes. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything. You're the reason I have anything. He kissed me, soft and fierce. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Work, sleep, repeat. Now I have something to fight for. Something worth protecting. I leaned into him, letting his strength hold me up. What do? We stand together. He pressed his forehead to mine. And we don't let them win. The council meeting was held in the great hall of the Sterling estate, the same hall where Julian's engagement party had taken place. The irony was not lost on me. I stood beside Damien, my hand in his, my chin lifted despite the whispers and stares. Julian sat in the front row, his expression smug. Victoria was beside him, her eyes cold. The elders sat at a long table, their faces unreadable. Damien Sterling, the head elder, began. You stand accused of claiming an omega against the wishes of your family and your pack. How do you respond? Damien's voice was steady. I respond that the claim was mutual, consensual, and binding. Elliot is my mate, and I will not renounce him. Your brother claims that you acted out of spite, to undermine his engagement. My brother is a coward who threw away a good omega for political gain. Damien's gaze swept the room. I acted out of love. Nothing more. Julian stood, his face red. Love? You barely knew him. I knew enough. Damien turned to face his brother. I knew that he was kind, that he was loyal, that he worked double shifts to care for his grandfather. I knew that he never asked for anything, even when he deserved everything. And I knew that you didn't deserve him. The room was silent. The elders exchanged glances. Enough, the head elder said. The bond is binding. It cannot be undone without severe consequences for both parties. If Damien is willing to accept the social and financial repercussions, the council will not intervene. Julian looked like he wanted to argue, but Victoria placed a hand on his arm, silencing him. Damien squeezed my hand. Thank you. The elder nodded. This matter is closed. We left the hall together, hand in hand, the whispers fading behind us. I felt lighter than I had in months. It's over, I said, still not quite believing it. It's just beginning. Damien kissed my temple. Our life is just beginning. We were married 6 months later, on a sunny afternoon in the garden where he had first claimed me. The fairy lights still twinkled in the trees, and the roses were in full bloom. Grandfather walked me down the aisle, his hand steady on my arm. Julian did not attend. Victoria sent a polite note of congratulations, which I suspected was written by her publicist. I didn't care. Damien's eyes never left mine as I walked toward him. He looked handsome in his charcoal suit, his dark hair swept back, his gray eyes bright with emotion. You're beautiful, he whispered when I reached him. You're biased. I'm accurate. The ceremony was short, the vows simple. We promised to protect each other, to cherish each other, to stand together against whatever came. And when the officiant pronounced us married, Damien kissed me, soft and sweet, full of promise. The reception was small, just close friends and family. Grandfather danced with me, his steps slow but sure. Marcus made a toast that was both heartfelt and awkward. Even the chef, who had come to mean so much to me, cried. As the sun set, Damien pulled me onto the balcony overlooking the garden. Happy, he asked. Happy, I said. Happier than I ever thought I could be. Good. He wrapped his arms around me. Because this is just the beginning. I leaned into him, watching the stars emerge one by one. The past was behind me. The pain, the betrayal, the loneliness. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but bright. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. Because I had Damien. I had a home. I had a love that would last forever. And I was never letting go. Years later, when we had children of our own, 2 boys, wild and wonderful, with Damien's dark hair and my stubborn chin, I thought back to that night in the garden. How different my life might have been if I had stayed home, if I had thrown away the invitation, if I had never danced with a stranger. But I hadn't. I had been brave. I had taken a chance. And I had found something I never expected. One evening, as Damien tucked our sons into bed, I sat on the balcony, watching the city lights flicker below. He joined me, wrapping his arm around my waist. What are you thinking, he asked. About how lucky I am. I leaned into him. About how one decision changed everything. Damien kissed my temple. Best decision I ever made. I smiled. Mine too. The stars shone overhead, and the world was quiet. Somewhere below, our sons laughed, and the sound was like music. I had gone to my ex's engagement party expecting closure. Instead, I had found a mate, a husband, a family. I had found a love that was fierce and true, a love that had chosen me when I thought I was unworthy. And I would spend the rest of my life grateful for that. The first year of marriage was not easy. Everyone expected it to be. The scandal had died down. Julian had retreated to lick his wounds, and the pack council had officially recognized the bond. But the whispers never fully stopped. Every time I accompanied Damien to a business dinner or a pack function, I could feel eyes on me, assessing, judging, waiting for me to fail. I didn't fail. I refused to. Damien was my anchor. When the weight of being a Sterling felt too heavy, he was there, his hand on my back, his scent calm and steady. He never pushed me to be anything other than myself, never asked me to perform or pretend. You don't have to prove anything to them, he said one night, after a particularly tense dinner where a pack elder had openly questioned my place at Damien's side. You're my mate. That's enough. It's not enough for them. Then let them stew. He pulled me into his arms. Their opinions don't matter. Only ours. I believed him most days. But the self-doubt I had carried since Julian's rejection was a stubborn weed, and it kept growing back no matter how many times I tried to pull it out. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. I was in the penthouse kitchen, making tea, when my phone buzzed with a message from grandfather. The bookstore called. They want to offer you a manager position. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. I had been working at the same bookstore for years, always the assistant, never the lead. I had never asked for more because I had never believed I deserved more. Damien appeared behind me, reading the message over my shoulder. You should take it. I'm not qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. He turned me to face him. You've been running that store for years while they paid you half of what you're worth. It's time they recognized it. What if I fail? Then you fail. He cupped my face. And I'll be here to help you try again. I took the job, and I didn't fail. The first few months were chaos, learning the administrative side of things, managing staff, dealing with difficult customers. But I loved it. I loved the challenge, the responsibility, the feeling of building something of my own. Damien was right. I was qualified. I had just been too afraid to see it. The pack noticed. Slowly, the whispers changed. Elliot Sterling is running that bookstore now. Did you hear he negotiated a new lease? Saved the owner thousands. Maybe Damien knew what he was doing after all. I didn't care about their approval anymore. But it was nice, finally, to be seen. Julian had been quiet for months. Too quiet. Damien and I both knew he wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully, but we had hoped, naively, perhaps, that he would move on, focus on his marriage to Victoria, and leave us alone. We were wrong. The first sign came in the form of a business deal gone wrong. Damien had been negotiating the acquisition of a small tech firm, something that would expand the Sterling portfolio into new markets. The deal was nearly signed when the other party suddenly backed out, citing irreconcilable differences. Damien's team was baffled. The terms had been generous. The negotiations had been smooth. Something wasn't right. Marcus investigated and discovered that Julian had been meeting with the tech firm's CEO behind Damien's back, offering a better deal, one that would cost the Sterling Empire millions but would cost Damien his reputation. He's trying to undermine you, Marcus reported, his face grim. He's been building a coalition of board members who are unhappy with your leadership. He wants to force a vote of no confidence. Damien's expression was ice. Let him try. He has allies you don't know about. Former business partners, rivals, people who have been waiting for a chance to take you down. Then we'll find them first. Damien turned to me. I need you to be careful. Julian knows that hurting you is the fastest way to hurt me. I nodded, my stomach tight. I had thought we were safe. I had thought the worst was behind us. But Julian's bitterness ran deeper than I had imagined. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through possibilities. What if Julian succeeded? What if Damien lost everything? What if I lost him? Damien's arm tightened around my waist. You're thinking too loud. I'm scared. I know. He pulled me closer, his lips brushing my ear. But I've faced worse enemies than my little brother. I'm not going to lose. You can't promise that. I can promise to fight. He turned me to face him, his gray eyes steady in the dim light. And I can promise that no matter what happens, you're my priority. Not the company. Not the money. You. I buried my face in his chest, letting his heartbeat soothe me. I love you. I know. He kissed my forehead. Now try to sleep. Tomorrow, we fight. The next few weeks were a blur of strategy meetings, phone calls, and late nights. Damien worked tirelessly to shore up his support among the board members, while Marcus dug into Julian's coalition, unearthing secrets that would make his allies think twice about backing him. I stayed out of the business side of things. That wasn't my world. But I supported Damien in every way I could, bringing him coffee when he forgot to eat, listening when he needed to vent, holding him when the weight of it all became too much. One night, I found him in his study, staring at a blank wall, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled. He looked exhausted, older than his years. Come to bed, I said softly. I can't. Not yet. He ran a hand through his hair. Julian has been meeting with a man named Viktor Kozlov. He's a Russian billionaire with ties to organized crime. If Julian brings him into the fold, he could destabilize everything I've built. Then stop him. I'm trying. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. But Kozlov is dangerous, Elliot. He doesn't play by the rules. If Julian allies with him, people could get hurt. What people? Us. Our family. Anyone who stands in their way. I crossed the room and took his hands. Then we leave. We go somewhere they can't find us. I can't run. You can't stay and get killed either. Damien pulled me into his arms. I won't let anything happen to you. I swear it. I held him tight, and I prayed that he could keep that promise. The confrontation came on a rainy Tuesday, in the boardroom of the Sterling headquarters. Julian had called for an emergency meeting, claiming he had evidence of Damien's mismanagement. The room was packed, board members, lawyers, advisors, all waiting to see the brothers tear each other apart. I sat in the back, my hands clenched in my lap, my heart pounding. Damien stood at the head of the table, his expression calm, his posture relaxed. He looked unshakable. Julian entered with a flourish, flanked by Viktor Kozlov, a bear of a man with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Thank you all for coming, Julian said, his voice dripping with false sincerity. I know this is difficult, but the future of the Sterling Empire is at stake. Get to the point, Damien said. Julian's smile faltered. Fine. I have evidence that you've been embezzling from the company, siphoning funds into offshore accounts, and using company resources for personal gain. The room murmured. Damien didn't flinch. Show me. Julian pulled out a folder and slapped it on the table. Inside were bank statements, wire transfer records, and emails, all supposedly linking Damien to the fraud. I recognized the documents immediately. They were forgeries, but they looked convincing. These are fake, Damien said. Prove it. I don't have to. Damien nodded to Marcus, who stepped forward with a laptop. Because I have something better. Recordings of you discussing the forgery with Kozlov. Emails between you and the forensic accountant you hired to fabricate the evidence. And a sworn statement from that accountant, confessing to the scheme. Julian's face went pale. That's not. It is. Damien's voice was cold. You tried to destroy me, Julian. You failed. Now you'll face the consequences. The board erupted. Julian shouted. Kozlov moved to leave, but security was already at the door. The room descended into chaos. I watched Julian's face crumble as he realized he had lost. Not just the battle, everything. His reputation, his future, his last chance at redemption. Damien didn't gloat. He simply turned and walked toward me, taking my hand. Let's go home. We left the chaos behind, and I didn't look back. Julian was arrested that afternoon. The charges were numerous: fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence. Kozlov was detained by federal authorities, his ties to organized crime finally exposed. The board voted unanimously to remove Julian from his position and strip him of his voting rights. He was, for all intents and purposes, finished. Victoria divorced him within a week. The Ashford family, embarrassed by the scandal, cut all ties and retreated to their estates. Julian was left alone, stripped of his power, his wealth, and his pride. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt hollow. He was your brother, I said to Damien that night, as we sat on the balcony, watching the city lights. Aren't you sad? Damien was quiet for a long moment. I'm sad for the boy he used to be, before our father poisoned him with ambition and greed. But the man he became? No, I don't mourn him. What will happen to him? Prison, most likely. For a long time. Damien took my hand. He made his choices. He has to live with them. I leaned against him, letting his warmth chase away the chill. I'm sorry. For what? For being the reason he turned on you. Damien turned to face me, his expression fierce. You are not the reason. Julian's choices are his own. He would have found another excuse to come after me eventually. You just gave him a target. That doesn't make me feel better. It should. He cupped my face. You showed me what it means to fight for something worth having. You gave me a reason to be better. Julian never understood that. He only understood power. And you? I understand love. He kissed me, soft and sweet. And I choose it. Every time. My grandfather had never approved of Damien. Not because he disliked him. He barely knew him. But because he was a Sterling, and the Sterlings had a reputation for using people and discarding them. Grandfather had watched me crumble after Julian's rejection, and he had no interest in seeing me go through that again. He's not Julian, I told him, during one of my weekly visits to his small apartment. They're cut from the same cloth. They're not. Damien is different. How do you know? I thought about it. How did I know? Damien had never promised me forever. He had simply stayed. He had never declared his love in grand gestures. He had shown it in small ways, every day. He had never asked me to be anything other than myself. Because he sees me, I said finally. The real me. Not the Omega, not the Sterling. Just Elliot. Grandfather was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Bring him to dinner. I did. Damien arrived with a bottle of grandfather's favorite wine and a nervous energy I had never seen in him before. He was polite, attentive, and genuinely interested in grandfather's stories about the past. He asked questions, listened, and laughed at grandfather's jokes. By the end of the evening, grandfather had warmed to him. He's not what I expected, he admitted after Damien had left. He's better. Maybe. Grandfather patted my hand. Just be careful, Elliot. Love is powerful, but it can also blind you. I know. I kissed his cheek. But I'm not blind. I'm choosing this. With my eyes open. Grandfather smiled, and for the first time in years, I saw hope in his eyes. Then I'm happy for you. A year into our marriage, I discovered I was pregnant. I had suspected for weeks, the fatigue, the nausea, the strange cravings, but I was afraid to hope. Low-ranking Omegas often struggled with fertility, and I had convinced myself that I would never carry a child. But the test was positive. I stared at it for a long time, my hands shaking, my heart racing. Damien found me in the bathroom, sitting on the edge of the tub, the test clutched in my hand. Elliot, what's wrong? I held it up. We're having a baby. His face went pale, then flushed, then broke into a grin I had never seen before. A baby, a baby. He pulled me into his arms, laughing, crying, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. A baby, he repeated, like a prayer. Our baby. The pregnancy was difficult. My body, never strong, struggled to support the growing life inside me. I was confined to bed rest for the final 2 months, and Damien rarely left my side. He brought me books, read to me, held my hand when the fear became too much. "You're going to be a wonderful father," I told him one night. "And you're going to be an amazing mother." He pressed a kiss to my belly. "Our child is lucky to have you." The baby was born on a stormy spring night. A boy, healthy and strong, with Damien's dark hair and my green eyes. We named him Alexander, Alex for short. "He's perfect," Damien whispered, holding his son for the first time. "He's you," I said. "He's us." Damien looked at me, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Elliot, for everything." I reached up and touched his face. "Thank you for staying." Damien was a natural father. He changed diapers without complaint, woke at 3 a.m. for feedings, and sang lullabies in a voice that was surprisingly gentle. He carried Alex everywhere, showing him off to anyone who would listen, his pride evident in every gesture. The pack noticed. "Damien Sterling is wrapped around that baby's finger," they whispered. "The Ice King has melted." It was true. Damien was softer now, more patient, more present. He still commanded boardrooms and inspired fear in his enemies. But at home, he was just Dad. One evening, as he rocked Alex to sleep, I watched from the doorway, my heart full. "You're good at this," I said. "I had good teachers." He looked up at me. My father was never around. He was too busy building his empire to notice his sons. I swore I would be different. "You are. Because of you." He stood, still holding Alex, and crossed the room to kiss me. "You showed me what matters." I leaned into him, our son between us, and felt a peace I had never known. When Alex was 2, we decided to try for another baby. The pregnancy was easier this time. My body had grown stronger, or perhaps I had learned to trust it more. The baby was a girl, with dark hair and fierce eyes, and we named her Elena. Alex was thrilled. "Baby," he said, pointing at his sister. "My baby." "Our baby," Damien corrected gently. "My baby," Alex insisted, and we laughed. Elena was different from Alex, quieter, more observant, with the intensity that reminded me of Damien. She watched the world with those dark eyes, cataloging everything, saying little. But when she smiled, it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "She's going to be trouble," I said. "She's going to be extraordinary," Damien replied. "Just like her father." Years passed. The children grew. Alex became a young alpha with his father's confidence and my stubbornness. Elena became a fierce omega who refused to be defined by her designation. They were close, inseparable, and they filled our home with laughter and chaos. The Sterling Empire flourished under Damien's leadership. He had expanded into new markets, brokered peace with rival families, and established a reputation for fairness that was rare in his world. The pack elders, once skeptical, now praised his wisdom. Julian, still in prison, had become a distant memory. I continued to run the bookstore, which had grown into a small chain with 3 locations. I had found my purpose, my passion, my place in the world, and I had done it on my own terms. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Damien and I sat on the balcony, watching our children play in the garden below. Alex was chasing Elena with a water hose, their laughter echoing through the evening air. "Happy?" Damien asked. "Happy," I said. "Happier than I ever thought I could be." "Good." He wrapped his arm around me. "Because this is just the beginning." I leaned into him, watching the stars emerge one by one. The past was behind me, the pain, the betrayal, the loneliness. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but bright. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. Because I had Damien. I had our children. I had a home. And I had finally learned that love wasn't about being chosen by someone powerful. It was about being seen by someone who stayed. When Alex was 16 and Elena 14, a new threat emerged from the shadows of the past. Viktor Kozlov had been extradited to Russia years ago, but his organization had not died with his arrest. A protege, a ruthless alpha named Ivan Volkov, had risen through the ranks and was now seeking revenge against the Sterlings for Kozlov's downfall. "He's been targeting our shipping routes," Marcus reported, his expression grim. "3 shipments lost in the past month. Our partners are getting nervous." Damien's jaw tightened. "What does he want?" "He wants you. He's made it clear that he won't stop until the Sterling Empire is destroyed. Then we'll stop him first." The investigation took months. Damien worked tirelessly, tracking Volkov's movements, identifying his allies, building a case that would put him away for good. I helped where I could, researching, organizing, supporting, but I felt useless. This was Damien's world, not mine. One night, I found him in his study, staring at a map of the city with red pins marking Volkov's suspected locations. He looked exhausted, older than his years. "Come to bed," I said. "I can't. Not yet. You've been saying that for weeks." He looked up at me, and I saw the weight he was carrying. "He threatened you, Elliot, and the children. I can't rest until he's stopped." I crossed the room and took his hands. "Then let me help." "You are helping." "I'm not." I squeezed his fingers. "I'm just watching. Let me do something." Damien studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "There is something. Volkov has a weakness, his sister. She runs a shelter for orphan shifters on the outskirts of the city. If we can get to her, we might be able to negotiate a truce. You want me to talk to her? I want you to try." He pulled me into his arms. "You're better at this than I am. You see people, not threats." I thought about it. It was dangerous. Volkov's sister might be just as ruthless as he was. But I had spent years building bridges, helping people, finding common ground. If anyone could reach her, maybe I could. "I'll do it," I said. "I'll have a security team with you." "I know. And if anything goes wrong." "It won't." I kissed him. "Trust me." I met Natalia Volkov in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city, far from the prying eyes of her brother's enemies. She was younger than I expected, with pale blonde hair and tired eyes. She looked like someone who had seen too much suffering and was trying to hold herself together. "You're Damien Sterling's mate," she said, not a question. "I am. He sent you to negotiate. He sent me to talk. I ordered tea for both of us. I'm not here to threaten you or manipulate you. I'm here to understand." Natalia studied me for a long moment. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone cold. Calculating. Like him." "Damien is many things, but he's not cold." "Not to me." I wrapped my hands around my cup. "Your brother has been attacking our shipments. People are getting hurt. This has to stop. My brother is trying to avenge our father. Your father was a criminal. He hurt a lot of people." Natalia's eyes flashed. "He was also a father. He loved us. I'm not here to judge him." I set down my cup. "I'm here to find a way forward. One that doesn't end with more bloodshed." We talked for hours. Natalia told me about her childhood, about the poverty and violence that had shaped her brother, about her own desire to escape the family legacy. She ran the shelter because she wanted to help people, to make amends for the sins of her father. "Ivan doesn't see it that way," she said. "He thinks the only way to honor our father is to destroy his enemies." "What do you think?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I think I'm tired of running." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Then stop. Help us end this." Natalia looked at me, and for the first time, I saw hope in her eyes. "What do you need me to do?" Natalia kept her word. She provided us with information about Ivan's operations, his weaknesses, his fears. Damien used that information to dismantle his network piece by piece, cutting off his funding, exposing his allies, backing him into a corner. It took 6 months, but finally, Ivan Volkov surrendered. He was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Natalia, who had cooperated with authorities, was given a reduced sentence and allowed to continue running her shelter under supervision. You did it, I said to Damien, the night it was over. We did it. He pulled me into his arms. Without you, we never would have reached Natalia. You saved us. I just talked to her. You saw her. He kissed my forehead. That's your gift, Elliot. You see people. You help them find their way. I leaned into him, exhausted but content. What happens now? Now we rest. He led me to the bedroom. And tomorrow, we start planning for the future. The years that followed were peaceful. Ivan Volkov's network was dismantled, and the Sterling Empire entered a new era of stability and growth. Damien stepped back from day-to-day operations, handing more responsibility to trusted lieutenants so he could spend more time with our family. Alex and Elena grew into remarkable young shifters. Alex, now 20, had inherited Damien's business acumen and was being groomed to take over the empire someday. Elena, 18, had followed in my footsteps, working at the shelter Natalia had founded and discovering her own passion for helping others. She's like you, Damien said, watching her play with the pups at the shelter. She's better than me. She's you, with more confidence. I laughed. Is that a compliment? It is. He took my hand. You've given me everything, Elliot. A family, a home, a reason to be better. I looked at him, at the man who had claimed me in a garden, who had stood by me through scandal and danger, who had loved me when I was unlovable. You gave me the same. We stood together, watching our daughter laugh with the pups, and I felt a peace I had never known. The past was behind us. The future was bright. And for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. When Alex married a young beta named Mira, and Elena found her mate in a gentle alpha named Leo, Damien and I became grandparents. The house was filled with laughter and chaos again, and I loved every moment of it. You're spoiling them, Damien said, watching me sneak cookies to our granddaughter. That's what grandparents do. You're going to ruin their dinner. Their dinner can wait. Damien shook his head, but he was smiling. He had softened over the years, his edges worn smooth by love and time. He still commanded respect, still inspired fear in his enemies. But at home, he was just Grandpa. One evening, as the sun set over the city, we sat on the balcony, watching our grandchildren play in the garden. Alex and Mira were there, Elena and Leo, all of them laughing, happy, alive. Happy? Damien asked. Happy, I said. Happier than I ever thought I could be. Good. He wrapped his arm around me. Because this is just the beginning. I leaned into him, watching the stars emerge one by one. The past was behind us, the pain, the betrayal, the loneliness. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but bright. And I was not afraid. Because I had Damien. I had our children. I had a home. And I had finally learned that love wasn't about being chosen by someone powerful. It was about being seen by someone who stayed. Years later, when Damien and I were old and gray, our children grown and our grandchildren nearly grown, we sat on the same balcony, watching the same stars. Do you ever regret it? I asked. Claiming me that night, Damien turned to look at me, his gray eyes still sharp despite his age. Never. Not even when Julian tried to destroy you? Especially not then. He took my hand. You were worth every fight. I smiled, leaning against him. I love you. I know. He kissed my temple. I love you too. The stars shone overhead, and the world was quiet. Somewhere below, our grandchildren laughed, and the sound was like music. I had gone to my ex's engagement party expecting closure. Instead, I had found a mate, a husband, a family. I had found a love that was fierce and true, a love that had chosen me when I thought I was unworthy. And I would spend the rest of my life grateful for that. Damien passed away first, on a quiet autumn morning, with his hand in mine and the sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows. He had been ill for months, his body, once so strong, finally succumbing to the wear of time. But his mind had remained sharp, and his love had never wavered. In his final moments, he looked at me with those gray eyes that had seen me through everything, the despair, the hope, the joy, and whispered, "Thank you for staying." I held him as he slipped away, and I did not let go until his hand grew cold. The funeral was immense. Leaders from across the continent came to pay their respects, along with former rivals, pack elders, and countless others whose lives Damien had touched. Alex spoke of his father's strength, Elena of his tenderness, and I could barely speak at all. But when I finally found my voice, I said this. Damien Sterling was not born a good man. He became one. He chose, every day, to be better than the world expected him to be. And he loved me when I had forgotten how to love myself. The wolves howled, and the sun set, and I returned to the home we had built together. The years that followed were quieter. I stepped back from the bookstore, leaving it in the hands of a capable manager, and spent my days with our children and grandchildren. Alex had taken over the Sterling Empire, ruling with the same quiet strength as his father. Elena ran the shelter, expanding it into a network of safe houses across the territory. They were remarkable, and I was proud. But I missed Damien. Every morning, I woke expecting to feel his arm around my waist. Every evening, I set the table for two before remembering he was gone. The silence in the penthouse was deafening. One night, unable to sleep, I walked to the garden where he had first claimed me. The fairy lights were gone, but the roses still bloomed, and the fountain still bubbled softly in the moonlight. I sat on the stone bench and closed my eyes, letting the memories wash over me. I felt him there, not as a ghost, but as a presence, warm, steady, familiar. I could almost hear his voice, low and rough, saying my name. "I miss you," I whispered. The wind rustled the leaves, and for a moment, I could have sworn I felt a hand on my cheek. I stayed in the garden until dawn, and when the sun rose, I made a decision. I would not spend the rest of my life mourning. Damien would not have wanted that. He had given me a gift, the gift of being loved, truly loved, and I would honor that by living. I returned to the shelter, helping Elena with the pups. I spent more time with my grandchildren, telling them stories about their grandfather, about the night he had claimed me in the garden, about the life we had built together. I wrote a book, a memoir, of sorts, about my journey from being discarded to being chosen. It became a bestseller, and I donated all the proceeds to the shelter. I lived for another 10 years after Damien died. They were good years, full of purpose and love. I watched Alex become a father and Elena a mother. I saw the Sterling Empire evolve into something Damien would have been proud of, less focused on power, more focused on protecting the vulnerable. When my time came, I was ready. I lay in the same bed where Damien had passed, surrounded by our children and grandchildren. Alex held my right hand. Elena held my left. The room was filled with flowers, with laughter, with tears. "Tell grandfather I miss him," I whispered. "We will," Alex said, his voice breaking. I closed my eyes, and I felt Damien's presence again, stronger now, closer. He was waiting for me. I smiled and I let go. They buried me beside him, under the oak tree in the garden where we had first kissed. The wolves howled, and the sun set, and our children stood together, united in grief and gratitude. Elena placed a hand on the stone that marked our resting place. "They loved each other," she said. "They loved us, and they never stopped fighting for what mattered." Alex nodded. "They taught us that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who stays." The wind carried their words away, and somewhere, in a place beyond stars, two souls found each other again.